Now, our first speaker will talk how a forgotten domain can become a goldmine for cybercriminals. Please, Chance Tudor from Infoblox, the stage is yours.
Cool. Yeah, so my name is Chance. I'm a threat researcher at Infoblox, and I'm here today to talk to you about lame delegation and how that can make you a sitting duck for cybercriminals. And just a quick, informal poll so I get a sense of the room. How many people knew that Infoblox had a threat intel team or knew that Infoblox was in security? Oh, good. Okay, that's a very sizable number. Okay, I'm glad to see that. Awesome. Okay, so I just want to start off with some definitions, starting with domain hijacking, aka domain theft. What is it? Well, it's using unauthorized methods to change the registration of a domain name, and that often means by abusing registrar or hosting provider services. There are various methods in which domain hijacking is achieved: access at the registrar, or at the name server, or via misconfigurations. And there are also various types of domain hijackings as well. So we have domain shadowing, we've got dangling CNAMEs and other records, and lame delegation, which is what I'm here to tell you about today. Oh, and why would somebody hijack a domain? Might seem like an obvious question, but for those in the room who may not know, for profit, obviously. If you hijack a domain, you could then sell it to somebody else, or you could use it for malicious purposes yourself, which is what we're going to be talking about today. You could redirect to malicious content like malware, phishing, or use it for spam infrastructure. And another definition, lame delegation, there's a rather specific definition there, but generally it means when the global DNS points to a name server that just really can't answer questions on behalf of the domain that it represents. So for example, let's say a company registers two domains, brand.com and brand.net. They then point the name server records to domains at a DNS provider. Then they go to that DNS provider, and they set up the infrastructure, the DNS infrastructure, name server infrastructure, for brand.com, but not brand.net. That means that brand.net is thus lame. So this brings us to the sitting ducks attack vector. It starts with an attacker finding a vulnerable domain, a domain that has a lame delegation. Then the attacker creates an account at that DNS provider and adds the vulnerable domain to their account. So in essence, they're saying, hey, I own this domain, even though they weren't the first ones to register it and aren't actually the legitimate owners. Then the attacker has pretty much free reign to add malicious IPs to the resource records, which then routes victims to those malicious services. A quick note on various victims. So obviously you have the organizations or the businesses who own those initial domains in the first place. This impacts their brand reputation. But then you have to think about the individuals that want to visit brand.net. When they go to brand.net and they're expecting to, I don't know, go to a grocery store chain or something like that, and they get redirected to malware, or they get hit with some sort of credential theft, that's a big no-no. And also then impacts the brand reputation of that initial brand. And a quick history of these warnings that we've been seeing in the industry about lame delegation. It stems back to August of 2016 with Matt Bryant, his blog. He actually wrote about it twice in 2016. And then we have Brian Krebs from Krebs on Security in January of 2019, talking about how lame delegation played a role in bomb threats and sextortion. And then in November of 2020, this one's pretty important, there's a notification from Group IB to Russian authorities in a publication in Russian media about what actually will end up being sitting ducks. Then March 2021, our friends at AppNick talk about it. And then June 2024, Infoblox and Eclipsium published their research about sitting ducks. So now we'll talk about the threat actors that we've seen in the wild using sitting ducks. We've seen over a dozen distinct actors, and most of them do have a Russian nexus. And this stems back to that November of 2020 publication by Group IB. It was only published in Russian media, and it was directly alerted to Russian authorities about this attack vector. It was actually a special case of sitting ducks, and it coincides with some early activity by a threat actor, DNS threat actor, that we call Vacant Viper. And the earliest confirmed hijack that we've seen using sitting ducks is in November of 2019 by Vacant Viper. So Vacant Viper is a name that we give a DNS threat actor that operates what Proofpoint in February of 2023 called the 404 TDS. That TDS traffic distribution system uses 404 redirects to deliver malware like Darkgate or async rat, phishing, scams. Vacant Viper has been active since about December of 2019, and they hijack about 2,500 domains a year. They abuse DigiCert, DNS-MADeasy, and Constellix. At least those are the providers that we've seen so far. And they like to target high reputation domains in order to blend in. And we've also seen repeated hijacking of the same domains. So a quick case study here of a domain that we've seen hijacked by Vacant Viper, Mick, Pennsylvania. It's a McDonald's affiliate. It was created in 1999, and the registrar was CSE Brand Protection Services, which is ironic in the end. So in June of 2023, we see a change from a DigitalOcean parked IP address to Russian IP space, which should make anybody go, what's that doing there? You can also see in the top right corner, the name server DNS provider at that point was DNS-MADeasy, so that aligns with the providers that we've seen Vacant Viper targeting. And then just a quick side note there, the green with the Viper, it then get hijacked. So Vacant Viper hijacks it, and then a Vextrio affiliate, that's that 9.5.216.35.61 IP, they pick it up and they hijack it as well. That's what we call rotational hijacking, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But more on Vextrio Viper now. So this is another TDS actor. They're an actor that has been active since at least 2016 or 2017. They operate a very large criminal enterprise, and they use hijacked domains in their TDS similar to Vacant Viper. They also like to target DigiCert, DNS-MADeasy, Constellix, and DigitalOcean. And there's over 65 known affiliate partners, some of whom also hijack domains via sitting ducks. And some of those names, we haven't given these names, but Clearfake and Sock Ghoulish are affiliate partners. So here's another case study, iccps.org. This is a domain for the ACM IEEE International Conference on Cyber Physical Systems. That's pretty small, and I'm really sorry, but you can see how, well, maybe you can't. Essentially, this domain is used as like an anti-bot protection in their TDS. So you go to the initial domain, which is a .tk domain, and then it redirects you to iccps.org to see if you will be routed to the malicious content, or in this case, again, very small, I'm sorry, but it could route you to the Play Store to download Tinder. So rotational hijacking, I talked about that just a bit ago, but you can see here a timeline how this domain, Mick, Pennsylvania, parked, hijacked by Vacant Viper, dropped a Vacant Viper after 30 days after they distribute their async rat, and then a few months later, hijacked again by a Vextrio affiliate. As of January 24, it's parked on a DigitalOcean IP, but we'll see who hijacks it next. And now a couple other actors. These aren't Vipers, these are Hawks. So these are actors that use sitting ducks as their main attack vector. Horrid Hawk, they've been conducting large-scale investment frauds since February of 2023. They like to embed their hijacked domains in Facebook ads, and they target users in over 30 languages. And they use hijacked domains in every single step of their campaigns. They also do use a TDS to profile potential victims. It's a really, really popular method that we've been seeing. And they exploit multiple DNS and web hosting providers, such as Linode, TRNet, and A2 Hosting. Hasty Hawk as well, they've been conducting widespread phishing campaigns since about March of 2022. They like to spoof DHL shipping pages, pretty classic, and also they like to fake Ukrainian donation sites. We've seen over 200 hijacked domains, and some of the providers they like to target are HawkHost, Maria Hosting, DigitalOcean, and again, we see them reconfigure the domains to host content on Russian IP space. Here's a quick example of Hasty Hawk. So you've got two domains, both leading into the same subdomain, dhl.3204.thebagshelf.com. And over time, we've seen this page change, actually, so what the content is hosting. September of 2023, it's DHL phishing. February of 2024, it's also DHL phishing, which is on the right side. That's an example of what that phishing page looks like. It's pretty convincing. And then in March of 2024, they switch over to spoofing an EU site, ostensibly to collect donations for Ukrainian victims. And now just quickly on the prevention, it is important to note that sitting ducks attacks are entirely preventable. Misconfigurations are an oversight, and they stem from various factors, but there are multiple parties that play a role in fixing this. Obviously, you have the domain holder, but also registrars and DNS providers can definitely make these attacks harder to perform or easier to remediate. And I think I've got about 30 seconds left, but that was the gist of the content. Thank you very much, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, questions, comments?
Hi, Ben Schwartz.
Oh, hello.
Who do you think is parking these domains on DigitalOcean?
Probably it's hard to say. My initial guess would be they're forgotten domains at first, or they think that the domain holder originally thinks that if you park a domain, then it can't be touched, but they forget that it's vulnerable in the end.
So in order for it to be parked, it needs to have functioning name servers, right? So that it resolves. So is this a case where like some of the name servers are functional and pointing to the parking IP and some are broken? Or is this a case where the attacker is actually parking the domain on DigitalOcean?
I wouldn't say it's the attacker. I think it's just a matter of, they park the domain, they think they've dealt with one name server, two name servers, but in an enterprise such as like McDonald's, it's hard to map the entire infrastructure, so there's probably a name server that's just forgotten about.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, this is Shumon Huck from Salesforce. A nice presentation. So this topic of domain hijacking has come up recently in the IETF DNS Operations Working Group. I don't know if you follow that venue at all. This was mostly in regard to, I think most of the cases you're talking about are pre-existing domains that the owner has somehow lost control of or neglected to maintain, and they've been subsequently hijacked, right? So the IETF discussion was also about newly registered domains where there is typically a small window of lame delegation vulnerability. And the question has come up, should the IETF develop some DNS protocol measures to limit that vulnerability? So my question is, do you have any opinion on that? Have you looked at newly registered domains in the context of hijacking? And also, I wanted to make another comment on Ben's proposal. For parking domains, it is not always the case that you need to have registered name servers. There are some registries that allow you to park a domain and not have any registered name servers, and nobody can do it. It's registered, but you can't hijack it until you go and create name servers and then establish the delegation. Okay, but my first question is for you.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for the question.
Yep.
Personally, I don't follow that
Okay.
forum. I probably should. We haven't necessarily looked in depth at newly registered domains. We mainly focus on domains that have been forgotten about, like you said, or misconfigured. But I think it would be an interesting. It would be interesting, and I think Infoblox would be, welcome to any discussions that may arise from that.
Yeah, I agree. So most of the countermeasures you talked about are registries and DNS providers being more responsible detecting things, right? So that is not DNS protocol work, but I would encourage you to think about, is there anything protocol-wise in addition we could do? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know, but I think it's worth thinking about.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, Mauricio Vergara from DigitalOcean. We're a bit aware of these kind of hijackings. At least from the point of view of DigitalOcean is every time that a customer delegates a domain name, we don't do any verification of he's or she's an owner of the domain. So it's tied to their account. We have seen that some users have done that in the past, but that will create a delegation on our side as a DNS provider for that domain. But there is the interaction that needs to happen on the registrar upstream. So if that is what it's creating the link between the owner and ourselves, I mean, it's not that we can take care of that at this point. So this is mostly a comment that we're aware of this, and every time that there is a complaint or support, it's taking care of those. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the comment. And yeah, I mean, I did mention, providers and registrars, but also the domain holders do have responsibility to know what domains they have and know what the status of those of the DNS infrastructure behind those domains are too.
Yeah,
so.
kind of that's the agreement on ourselves at least, is that the owner of the domain should be more aware of this. So.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so Chance, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.